Today we're going to look at section 9-3 called Composite Figures. So composite just means you're going to have two or more figures together. And if you have two or more figures together, you're basically just going to find the area of each using your formula sheet, and then you're going to add them once you're done. Okay? We're also going to see one today where you have a figure and then you kind of have a different figure missing out of it. So you're actually going to end up subtracting. But let's start with one where you add. So example number 1. All right, so example number 1, we have a figure that looks like this. So at first, it's a little weird to look at, but if you, bless you, if you draw a dashed line straight down here, over on the right, you've got a what? A triangle, okay? And if you draw a dashed line across here, right here, you've got a what? This one's a rectangle, and up top, you've got half of a what? Circle. Okay, so let's get some measurements here. We're going to have 14 millimeters from here to here. And along the bottom here, all the way across, is going to be 32 millimeters. And this semicircle up here has a diameter of 20 millimeters. Okay. So we've got 3 figures to work out. Let's start with the easiest one. Which one has the easiest formula between a semicircle, a rectangle, and a triangle? The rectangle, right? So let's start with the rectangle. So we're going to write down the name of the figure, and then we're going to write down the formula. Area is going to be equal to base times height, bless you, or you can use length times width. And then we're going to take the measurements from that rectangle. Well, we know the height right here is 14, but we don't know the length of just this side, right? From here to here. We do know the whole, oh yeah, we do know it. It's up there. It's 20. There it is. Sometimes you have to look a little bit harder for it. All right, so let's plug those in. We're going to have a base of 20, a height of 14. We're going to grab our calculator and multiply 20 times 14, hit the equal sign. I got 280. And the units on this one is millimeters squared. All right, any questions on the rectangle there? Okay, let's look at the next easiest figure, which is going to be the triangle. Triangle formula, right off your formula sheet, is going to be base times height divided by 2. And this is the one we need to calculate from here to here. So if the whole thing is 32 and from here to here is 20, that makes this much in here how much? 12. So that's 12 millimeters. If the height over here is 14, that means the height over here is also 14 millimeters. So this is a right triangle, which means that the height is right on the side. So we're just going to plug those two numbers in, and we're going to have 12 times 14, then we're going to divide it by 2, or you can use 1/2, 0.5, just depending on how you prefer to do it on the calculator. And I got 84 millimeters squared. All right, so we've done the rectangle, we've done the triangle. That leaves us with what? Semicircle up here. Okay, so semi just means half. semicircle. And so we know the area formula for a full circle, right? Full circle formula is what? So on your formula sheet, you're going to look it up. You guys should all have your formula sheet out, which you clearly don't. So you should have pi r squared. Semi, we're going to take half of it, so we're going to take whatever we get there, and we're going to divide it by 2. Okay? So right here, if we have a diameter of 20 millimeters, what's the radius of that guy going to be? Because that's what we need for the formula. 10. So we've got a 10 millimeter diameter. So we're going to use that in our formula. So we're going to say pi times 10 squared. And then we're going to divide by 2. So you can do this on the calculator, but this one looks hard, but it's actually pretty easy. 10 squared is what? 100. Half of 100 is 50. So we have 50 pi, and if you're asked for it in pi, then you just leave it like that, millimeters squared. All right? So what we want to do is we want to find the total of all 3 of those figures, right? So for the rectangle, we had 280 millimeters squared. For the triangle, we had 84 millimeters squared. If you add those 2 up, you get 364. Then we have the semicircle as 50 pi millimeters squared. So this is what we call the exact answer, and then we're going to get our decimal answer. How do I know it's going to have a decimal? Because there's a pi in there. Okay, so on your calculator, you want to do 50 times the pi button first, which is going to give you that decimal. Just leave it in there and then hit plus the 364 equal sign. I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. So right now I have 521.0. It's either going to stay a 0 or round up to a 1. How do I know? I look right next to it. There's a 7. So do I stay or round up? Round up. So it's going to be 521.1 millimeters squared. Your answer is going to be either of these 2 depending on how they ask for it. If you're not sure, just get both. All right. Example number 2. Let me move it up a little bit for you. So for example number 2, we actually start with a triangle, but this time we're going to take out this semicircle, right? If I dash it across here, you can see that we've got a semicircle. So let's give you some measurements here. This leg over here is 26 feet. This leg over here is 18 feet. And the diameter for this semicircle is 9 feet. Now, if the diameter is 9 feet, we know we're going to need what for the formula? Radius, right? So the radius is going to be how long? Half of this. What's half of 9? 4.5. We'll call it 4.5 feet. Okay? So on this one, instead of adding like we did in example number 1, we're going to subtract that semicircle out because it's like it's cut out. Okay? So let's start with the triangle. Triangle formula, base times height divided by 2. Oops. A equals. And so we're going to take the 2 legs, so the 18 and the 26. Divide it by 2. I got 234, and this one is in feet. So feet squared. Triangle should be pretty easy, right? Now let's do the semicircle. Same as it was in example number 1 up there. We're going to say that the area is equal to pi r squared, which is a regular full circle, but this is half a circle, so we're just going to divide it by 2. The number that we need for this one is the radius, which is 4.5, so we're going to say pi times 4.5 squared divided by 2. So the first answer I'm going to get, I'm going to leave pi in there. So I'm going to punch everything into the calculator except the pi. So I need to do 4.5 squared. There's 4.5 squared. And then I'm going to divide that by 2. So I've got 10.125 pi. All right. So when we go to get the total, instead of adding, we're going to subtract this time. So we're going to start with the 234 from the triangle, and we're going to subtract the 10.125 pi for the semicircle. Looks super complicated, and if you were doing it in your head, it would be a pain, but do it on your calculator. So you're going to go 234 minus the 10.125. I should put that in parentheses. Let me clear it. So we're going to do 234 minus the 10.125 times pi. Hit the equal sign. I got 202. And then after the decimal point, there's a 1, but there's a 9 next to it, so we're going to round up to 0.2. So our approximate answer is going to be 202.2 feet squared. And this would be your pi answer if you're asked for a pi answer. So depending on which way is how you give it. All right. Any questions on example number 1 or example